Hey everybody, welcome to the Hang Up here. It's Matt Dillahunty on a Wednesday night. Like almost always, the Hang Up's the show where I get to talk about whatever I'm hung up on. We will take calls as always. All the shows here on the line take calls. And so you can start getting your calls in here right away. Theists will always get priority. People who disagree with us on issues are always going to get priority. If you're just calling in to share your story, probably not the best place, but it's also probably a pretty good day to do that in small doses, given what I'm hung up on. You guys don't know what it's like to be me. That's not a setup. That's not a pity me or celebrate. No, it's just a fact. You don't know how it feels to be me, as Tom Petty put it. And I don't know how it feels to be you. I don't know what it's like to live as a woman now or in the past. I don't know what it's like to live as a racial minority. I don't know what it's like to live as a trans person or a queer person. I don't know what it's like to live below the poverty line. I don't know what it's like to live with immense wealth. I don't know what it's like to live with the death sentence of ALS, as my friend Dave Warnock is. I don't know what it's like to live with the history and conditions and friends and family you grew up with or interact with. Even my brother, who has pretty much the same set of family and a good chunk of shared friends, has completely different experiences with him. I don't know what it's like to be my brother. It's difficult to make connections in life and to understand others. It takes a little effort. It requires not just the capacity for empathy, but the actual desire to learn about others. And I think sometimes something needs to happen to wake you up to the value of my life isn't your life isn't my life, but I need to do what I can to understand as much as I can about other people's lives so I can make sure that my life isn't making their life worse. It requires empathy and a desire to make the world a better place, to understand the world. In many situations, I'm not interested in your life story. I think that's true for everybody. I think you're going to run into people and they want to tell you their life story and you're just like, you know what? I can't. I have no more spoons for that. I have enough going on. And yet, on some level, I know it's beneficial. On some level, I'm intellectually curious about somebody's life story, their lived experiences, their struggles. But I have enough on my plate with my own stuff, and it keeps me from making those connections frequently. Some people will never make an effort to even intellectually understand who you are, let alone emotionally connect with you. I'm curious about those people's lived experiences, why they don't make those connections. There are some people who need someone they care deeply about to be in a particular category before the plight of the people in that category makes it real, or becomes real, and gives them a reason to address it. How many vehemently anti-queer politicians have changed their tune when a close family member, a daughter, a niece, a cousin, a brother comes out? Now all of a sudden it's not an abstract, it's somebody I know. How many apathetic people become inspired and mobilized towards a goal when someone they care or have met even is involved? It shouldn't require having a child for you to care about the children. Florida doesn't care about children or anybody else. Florida's becoming the first state, or trying to become the first state. Sounds ominous. First state, like there's a whole bunch more going to fall in line behind them, which in the world we live in seems likely. But they're trying to become the first state to eliminate all vaccine requirements, including for public schools. They don't understand the science. They don't understand herd immunity. They don't understand or appreciate, it's all about my freedoms. And evidently, Florida's freedoms include the freedom to increase the risk of health dangers to others, rather than contributing and working in with a community, sacrificing some of your personal space so that you're not imposing on others. You can walk around coughing and get everybody sick. We're killing off healthcare to kill off people. It shouldn't require having a daughter for you to care about the safety and rights of women. It shouldn't require you knowing someone who's gay or queer or trans or whatever label you want to put on it to care about their rights and their life. It shouldn't require knowing a victim or being a victim for you to care about addressing their issues. It shouldn't require the presence of injustice at all to care about justice. I'm not a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I have lived. I've never been far right, but I do know a little bit about what it's like to live as a Rush Limbaugh ditto-head conservative. I know a little bit about what it's like to live as a centrist, and then as a liberal, and then as a leftist. I don't have criticisms of only one side, even if it seems that way, because one side is currently much more deserving of criticism than another. Marjorie Taylor Greene is on the right side of history today. She's even making many Democrats look really bad with her response and thoughts and compassion with regard to the Epstein victims and abuse survivors who spoke today. Now, I didn't watch their speeches for a number of reasons. I will get caught up on the details, but there were a number of reasons that I didn't. And I didn't watch Marjorie Taylor Greene speak about it. I got this secondhand. My understanding, though, is that she mentioned the victims' reasons for staying silent. The fact that these are incredibly powerful people. People who are rich, people who are connected to the highest levels of government in a number of different countries, people who can make things absolutely miserable for anybody who dares speak up. And you know what Marjorie Taylor Greene said? She's not afraid. Give her the list. She'll out every one of them. Good for her. I don't need to be a Republican or a conservative or a victim to acknowledge all of that. The truth should be enough. We already know, while we don't know all the details, we already know there are victims and there are survivors from Epstein, from Ghislaine Maxwell. And we know that whether the people in power are complicit as co-actors in those issues, or merely complicit in trying to shield them from further protection by denying it, pretending it's a hoax, it should all go away. Marjorie Taylor Greene today gave me a small glimmer of hope that the divisive entrenchment might not last forever. But I also know how quickly we forget and how wrong she is on so many other issues. Cartoonishly wrong with QAnon conspiracies and Jewish space lasers. But today, on this day, to quote my friend Susie from earlier, she's on the right side of history, and I'd say that she was nearly great. It makes sense. You know, you have a limited number of things that you can focus on and care about and work for at any given time. Your resources are limited. You have so many hours in the day. Your understanding is limited. It's really difficult to become passionate about something when you don't know there's an issue at all or cannot fully understand the issue. While I reject the concept of qualia, I cannot deny that directly experiencing something is more likely to institute change in someone than merely hearing about it. If someone flew you around the world to some of the many places where there's no running water, it would change your life. If someone showed you abuse survivors, it would change your life. Forever? Probably not. Not in the way we wish it would. It would probably change your life and then gradually become more normal. You have that knowledge now, and now you have a better understanding of the issue, and so now you can be more compassionate about it, but the world doesn't stop moving. There's always something new. There's always some new battle, some new injustice. There's no fault in this. We see the world through a narrow slit in a piece of cardboard. And if you want to see more, you need to hold the cardboard closer so that your eyes get closer to the slit so that you can remove the cardboard as much as possible. You've got to really get close to start to see clearly. Our capacity to understand and care and help people diminishes as they are further away from us geographically, temporally, and personally. I care about the people who are physically close to me right now, who I know, more than I care about someone 10 years and 5,000 miles away, because there's a time and a place for everything. I got a limit as to how much I can focus on, and this is what's in my presence right now. It's attention triage. It's compassion triage. If you cared the same for everyone, everywhere, all the time, you would be curled up in a ball, catatonic from the clear, crushing weight of it all. We do not have the capacity to grasp things and care about things at the extent that it may require all the time. You need to sleep. You need to reset. That's why we realize you don't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You get time off, you get vacations. And part of it is to reset yourself, but part of it is also to build those connections. I don't know what it's like to be you. And for some of you, I'd love to find out. And for some of you, I kind of think I don't. I don't know what it's like to be you, but I can tell you what people care about and focus on. And I can listen and I can learn. And I can hear your stories, and some will help me connect with you more and your issues more. And others will make it more difficult to connect. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, is making me optimistic today. But I know that if she and I sat down to talk, we would disagree vehemently on so many issues that agreeing on whether or not victims deserve justice seems trivial. And yet we live in a world where it's anything but. We live in a world where it seems that the people we are at odds with on issues A, B, and C make it so that we will not even recognize that we're at least together on issue D. And I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's the way it is. Connections are hard to make. And religions, many of them, have pretended that they are helping people make those connections, but they're not. Religion's connections are a lie. Religious connections play up the human connections that we already have and care about, but add divisive walls. We care this far and no farther. Maybe they are a process of our trying to make sense of the world and realizing we can't address everything, so we need an us and them. It shouldn't require a connection to care about justice, freedom, or individual sovereignty, but it does. And it shouldn't require a connection to be able to say their life isn't mine, but their life is one that we should protect. But it does. The love of religion is a lie. It's selective. It's conditional. And some would say all love is conditional. And you're probably right. Why would I love someone who doesn't love me back? Why would I love somebody who treats me terribly? Why? But a love for justice, a love for freedom, for individual sovereignty, for equality, of fairness. Those are the loves that we promote. And when you do that, the rest of it falls in line. The community of religion is a lie. They are insular by their very nature. It is us versus them. If the Protestants and Catholics aren't fighting like cats and dogs, they're joining together to fight some other religion. And then they throw in Judaism. And now all of a sudden you've got Judeo-Christianity, which isn't even a religion. It's not even a real thing. And yet it supports Zionistic ideas and end-time ideas. And all it does is make things harder for people to make the real connections. To say, hang on, people over here are dying. Yeah, but that's people over there. I'll have time for people over there. Love and community don't require or benefit from religions or gods. They're about human interaction and human connection. It is hard, if not impossible, to vilify an entire group of people when you know someone in that group. The connections have to be made. So let's keep working to learn more about others to the extent that we have that capacity before humanity is wiped out by fear, ignorance, and hatred. Joining me tonight, my friend, celebrating her 49th birthday, the president and founder of Black Nonbelievers. Please welcome Mandisa Thomas back to the show. How are you?
I am doing well. Hello, Matt. Thank you so much. I am looking forward to my 49th birthday tomorrow. So this is a pre-celebration. So yes, I'm turning 49. It is a pleasure to be back, and I am grateful. I really appreciate you, friend.
Well, I didn't want to rob you of a day. So you still have one more day as 48, and at least until, midnight or whatever. Have you got it down to the hour? Like, I was born at 9:42 p.m. So you better not say I'm 49 till then.
I used to do that because on my birth certificate, I think it says I was born around like 1 o'clock. Don't get me the line on the exact time, but that's pretty much. But no, I counted at midnight. That because at 48 going on 49, that part doesn't really matter anymore. So I celebrate from midnight to midnight all day, and even past that, even into the weekend. Let's just make it a whole month. So
there you go.
I am very much looking forward to my birthday, and I just could not help but nod my head at everything you said. If I may add, for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes before we get in the call.
Yeah, go for it.
As someone who is very visible and public facing in this community, and as someone who is a mother, I'm a spouse, I am a friend, I am so many, I am a lot of things to a lot of people. One thing I found is that compassion and empathy is not the enemy to being logical, to being what we consider intelligent. In fact, I think it shows how intelligent we are and how intellectual we can be by our ability to empathize and show care and concern for others beyond our point of view. And I think that a lot of that comes from us, because I am guilty of, I think many of us can say that we are guilty of not caring about an issue until we have been personally impacted or directly impacted, or someone we know has been impacted. However, that shouldn't always be the case. It really takes stepping outside of your point of view. There's one thing that it says in the that says in the Bible. One thing that I can agree with is not all the time, but at least some of the time, about not leaning into thine own understanding, because sometimes our understanding of things, depending on what we may be experiencing at the time, what someone else may be experiencing, certain circumstances or life situations can determine our understanding of something at a time. And
Yep.
especially, and for some of us who may experience mental health and emotional health issues, especially if you are unlearning or overcoming religious indoctrination, our understanding of things can be wrong. And it takes a willingness to be vulnerable and acknowledge when we can be wrong. And if we are we willing to be receptive to information that is given to us in a way that is objective and in a way that is tactful? Because it's important that all parties, not just one or two, there can be many, but are we willing to vet the information, take it, acknowledge how we might be receiving it at the time, and think about how and why we may be coming to certain conclusions. And some of it is due to our indoctrination, and how we were raised to see the world. Me, I come from the projects. I was born and raised in the projects, came from a single parent household. I know what it's like to have not. I come from, and I know what it's like to come up hard in a neighborhood that comes up hard. Everybody, like you said, does not have my experience. But what I have learned over the years is that even people who we see as who may have had like financial privilege, have also suffered some of the same abuses that I have, like parental abuses. And so I can empathize with that, as a human being. And sometimes it may even be harder for those who have been raised in privilege and yet have been abused, because they're seen as, the success stories. It's always our perceptions. And it's important, I think it's very, very important for us to look beyond our perceptions, think about what may be informing our thoughts and certain decisions. And if you make a mistake, own it. It happens. And if your instincts and whatever that shows a demonstrated pattern of either bad behavior is leading, then fine, it's okay to trust it. But it's also important for us to look into our own vulnerabilities, because that saying I don't know or not having an answer is hella scary. And we've been conditioned to think that is scary, that that you have to have all the answers all the time. And we don't.
Well,
That
I do.
definitely, well, of course you do, Matt. No, just kidding. But I would say
that's right.
Yeah, it really starts. I think it's sometimes it's astounding. I think when I was younger, I may have thought that it may have been a bit harder. But as I get older, I think it shouldn't be as difficult to try to understand where people are coming from, and at least to listen. Understanding does not mean you agree, but at least you understand where someone is coming from. It doesn't mean you have to accept or tolerate certain things, because we should all be held to a higher standard of accountability and responsibility.
Yep.
But it takes being willing to do that as well. And so many people aren't. And I think that is what hurts us more than anything else.
There's a number of scenarios where, I mean, you're talking about, we don't have the same lived experience on issue 1 and 2, but on 3, even if we come from different backgrounds and families and everything else, we're both, abuse survivors or have dealt with this issue. It strikes me, you watch people like celebrities are propped up and they're rich and famous and they're living an idyllic life. Nothing could go wrong. And so when you see someone like Robin Williams take his own life, you're like, well, that's just a coward's way out. I can't imagine that. But you don't know what it's like. I mean, I've heard that he had received a diagnosis, and you don't know how different people are going to deal with that stuff. But also, there's the notion of more money, more problems, which is, it doesn't make everything easier. It makes a lot of shit a lot easier, but it also can set you up in much the same way that if you only ever did curls with your right arm and you skipped leg day, you might have a really impressive looking right arm that can do stuff and would be great in a photo shoot. And the rest of you, which is hidden away because it's not the part in the picture, looks like crap, doesn't function correctly. And take that analogy and spin it to the brain, which you cannot see what's going on, and you do not know what's going on. So you don't know what their pain is. Doesn't mean that it's an excuse for things. I spent about 14 years not dating pretty much anybody. I was not suffering from, nor do I value or consider this notion of a male loneliness epidemic. The reality was, I didn't have enough interest in sharing my life with other people, so I didn't do the things the one would do. I stayed home. I did my own things. I did video games. I didn't seek out companionship. I didn't really seek out friends. But I had in my head this notion that it never would have occurred to me to take that situation and say, "Oh, I'm the victim here. Somebody else is in control of relationships or sex or whatever the thing is," and yet I watch people doing that. I think they're monumentally wrong about how they're assessing it, but I think it's true that there's something going on in their head where they desperately need help. It just may not be the help they think they need, and I'm wondering how many other scenarios is that the case where the victims or the survivors aren't necessarily sure what they need, what will help them heal, what nothing could ever make amends for some of the things that have been done to some people, but knowing that there's a world that it even gives a shit that it happened and that it was wrong could be enough to help someone stop living in the past and start building a future. And you don't know. It's really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And that definitely goes back to what I said about just being able to listen to people and have just an ounce of, even just an ounce of compassion goes a long way. I was also thinking about going back to Marjorie Taylor Greene for a moment. And I was thinking also about the number of people who got Trump elected because they really thought that he was on their side, not remembering what happened from 2016 to 2021, not remembering anything about it. So many people thought, well, that isn't going to happen to me. It's only going to happen to them.
Yep.
So many people fell for that. And now, and Marjorie Taylor Greene was probably one of those people. But now that we're on the other side of this, there are a number of those supporters who are losing their benefits. They are losing resources. They are losing jobs. They are losing lives. So now they are getting a very, very hard kick in the ass.
Yeah.
One that they were warned about. unfortunately, we have so many people who live by saying, well, that's not going to happen to me. That can't happen to me. And I try to live by a rule of thumb that you should always try to look at things as if they could happen to you. Even if it doesn't necessarily mean that it will, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and at least trying to understand that it could happen makes a huge difference. It helps, it should at least help more people become empathetic or sympathetic toward, and then at least try to help people out of, because this could have been avoided. This whole thing could have been avoided. I mean, not saying that it would have been perfect, right? Because nothing is
Right.
perfect.
The perfect is the enemy of the good.
Right. But I mean, we would not be seeing what we've been seeing these past, 9 months?
Yeah. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And no bullshit, brutal honesty. You and I've been friends for years. No bullshit, brutal honesty. How mad are you at me that I never replied to your email from May 4th?
I am not mad. I just thought I think I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure what was going on, And in recent years have just left me wondering about certain things. So, and I know that I'm always, because so many people, because heck, things happen that I miss. It rarely happens, but it does. So I really do try to be understanding that, Matt is very busy. I figured that if he was upset with me about something, he would have told me.
See, that's so this is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons I did this. Because we haven't talked about this. So for those, nobody knows. Here you go. Back in May, Mandisa sent me an email that basically said, "Hey, I'm writing to ask for yours and Arden's participation in a fundraiser for Black Nonbelievers. If you're interested and available, we'd love to have you, etc." Here's the thing. In all the times that Manny and I have arranged shows and stuff, it's always been second, third party, or I'm going to send you a text message, or you're going to text me. And so an email came in from, even though there was nothing wrong on Mandisa's end, it was be in live stream appearance request. And I didn't even see that email because I don't go near my email for long periods of time, which has bit me in the ass more than once, until, I don't know, a couple of weeks later. And then it was like, oh, wow, I need to reply to that. But I can't right now because there's this fire. Oh, I need to reply to that, but I can't write. And then finally, when I heard about the thing actually going down, I was like, wait, she emailed me about that. Did I not reply? And of course the answer is no. One of the things the reason I bring that up is first of all, I'm very sorry that I didn't answer your email. It was also, it was like the first time we'd ever tried to arrange anything by email like that. And it was like, I think in my brain it was, oh, no, that was a form letter that got sent to a bunch of people because we tend to, just fucking call me. And the point I wanted to make is when you actually have good connections with people, when you don't have to be the best friends. Mandisa and I don't hang out all the time, but I'll hang out with her whenever I can.
Absolutely.
You get to a point where it's like, oh, when this person doesn't reply to your text or this person doesn't reply to your email, you're not, what's going on? You don't sit there and obsess over it. It's, I know that I've done something similar to this at some point in the past. I know that I've gotten distracted. And now all of a sudden, you're both humanizing each other and realizing, hey, I don't know what's going on there, but I know that if there wasn't something going on, I'd have already heard things would be on track for this, because these are the types of relationships that we need to help build in the broader community, whether it's the secular community, whether it's political communities, or just your neighborhood in general. Like I had new neighbors move in across the street on Monday. I happened to be out there working, And, they waved from across. So I walked across and introduced myself. That's really fucking weird for me. So I've lived in this house for a while. And I used to know one of my neighbors across the street when they moved out. I now kind of know the person that lives there only because we had a few conversations. I know the person to the right I see every few months, and we always have a pleasant conversation and then go right back in. Once every few months for the person who's literally 15, 25 feet that way from me pretty much right now. Once every few months. I remember, and I'm not sure that there's anything bad or wrong about that. This is the thing I kind of want to get feedback on is when I grew up, we knew all the neighbors. Everybody interacted. There were block parties and, is that because times have changed, or is it because that's what people with kids do? And since I don't have kids, I don't interact with all the people around that do. Or is it a mix of both? I don't know. But I don't feel like people know their neighbors.
Yeah, I think that times are changing now. And I do, there are some pluses and minuses to having like a close-knit community where people kind of, saw, but, it was also a thing where, your neighbors could whoop you, and that wasn't always good. We saw it. We now know that, spanking, spanking is just a bad and abusive thing to do. Right. So,
yeah,
there are some of those old adages that I think still ring true and some that, just need to go away. But, it is, I don't know. It's weird because being from New York, right? You're even though we had neighborhoods, a city like New York, you're just conditioned to not really talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But being here in the South and just being a New Yorker, I will say hello, and I think I have a community mindset where I'm not just on stage, or you don't just see me here on this screen talking to people or talking to you. You're going to see me talk to everybody as much as possible. Because that is how you live your values. That is, to me, the start of being a humanist or humanistic in general. You can just strike up a conversation, even if you don't always want to be bothered, because that's a thing. So I don't think you have to know your neighbors in order to have a communal mindset, but it's a good start. I know that we've lived in our neighborhood now for about 8 years. We don't know everyone, but it's a habit for us to speak to each other, and we do get to know each other at certain gatherings. And I think that that is something that we should, at least as much as possible, be trying to practice. Not necessarily because everyone who wants to know something doesn't always have the best intentions, but I think that's where our discernment should come in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that is extremely important, because even everybody in your family doesn't need to know everything about you.
Amen.
But yeah, and
you don't need to know everything about them.
Yes, we don't need to know everything about them either. It's like, look, that ain't none of my business. I'm staying out of it, right? But yes, so there's a lot more nuance, I think, now than there used to be. And I think as we become more aware of people and how they may have like social personality disorders, or there may be other things that they deal with that we weren't aware of before, it's important to be aware of and be understanding of what someone may be going through, and not necessarily push what we may want on them. And this leads me to say something. Whether I just met you yesterday, or I knew you for almost a year, or for 10 years, right? Go back to you and I, Matt. Like, let's say if you wanted to ask me something, and I told you that, look, I'm dealing with something right now. I'll get back to you on this day, or I'll get back to you at this time. It is important that we are respecting each other's space and where we might be in that moment. And not just necessarily try to resolve things the way we see fit.
Yeah.
Because if we are engaging in relationships, or being in relationship with people, we have to respect people where they might be in that moment and also give them the time to respond. I mean, if there's a certain amount of time where they haven't responded, sure, you could say, hey, sure, I could have followed up. It's like, hey, Matt, did you see this? Or maybe I should have texted. I try not to be intrusive. I don't want to be like, hey, get this done for me now, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's about allowing, like you said, it's about allowing people to get to that space where they can respond in a way that makes things that leaves little room for misunderstanding, and that at least shows that we are trying to communicate better with each other, especially when we are in close relationship with people.
Yep.
Things happen, but yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we've ranted enough.
Yeah, we're going to get calls in a minute. I would notice that we have better access to communicating with people than ever. For example, while I'm not close with any of my neighbors, there's a family 2 doors down, big Mexican family with loads of weekend parties and everything else. I decided I had a flat tire, and I decided I was going to buy a tire repair kit and fix it myself rather than, throwing the tire in a car and driving it over somebody else. And despite the fact that they barely speak any English and I barely speak any Spanish, even without immediately relying on the translation device on my phone, we were able to talk. They came over and helped me with my tire. It's the most, I'm not just being nostalgic for this, because let's be honest, if I wanted to interact more with people, nothing's stopping me but what I want to do and what I want to focus on. Right. I don't know how much interaction is enough or too much or anything else, and it's going to vary. But it's just something I observed, because over and over we're seeing people who you think should already have a connection to being neighborly, not necessarily because you're in the same neighborhood, but neighborly, that phrase, we're neighborly to the people that we care about. We're not necessarily best friends. We're not family, but we're neighborly. And we don't see, I think, enough of that to stop the conflicts that are arising between neighbors. Some of them are just going to happen. Marjorie Taylor Greene and I are going to probably, until she changes her mind and, I don't know, gets to be a bunch more compassionate and smarter in a colloquial sense, but there's just shit we're just not going to agree on. But we don't have to fight. I can allow people to have their disagreements until they're encroaching on people's rights. We've got to get ready for calls here, but I want to give some, for those who don't know, Mandisa is in charge of, the creator of, the founder of, head motherfucker in charge of, and just badass in general of Black Nonbelievers. And I always want to give you an opportunity to talk about that organization, talk about what's going on, talk about how people can support and help out, and what we can expect to see in the coming months and year.
Yes. So first, I'd like to say that in 2026, BN will be celebrating our 15th year in existence. We are that organization. We are now the largest Black atheist organization and most recognized throughout the world. And we connect and build community for and increase awareness of Blacks and allies, but primarily Black folks who are atheists, humanist, agnostic, those who are questioning their religious beliefs in favor of leaving. We just finished Table A at Dragon Con, so I feel like I have done this elevator pitch like so many times. And I will tell you, it was a pleasure talking to so many people from all different backgrounds who came to our table, some of whom were believers and who didn't necessarily agree, but after talking with us, they had a better understanding of the work that we do, and we actually found some common ground. I actually had the opportunity to speak with a white Christian woman who was very, she almost seemed like she was questioning her faith, but we ended up agreeing on the Agent Orange in charge right now and some of the ways that he needs to be stopped, which I thought was fantastic. But some of the things that we do, of course, we host in-person and virtual events, like our BNC Con that's coming up. We co-sponsor a student scholarship with the Secular Student Alliance. We table at various events. We have participated in a number of research studies and focus groups, and we love to socially network. We feature content creators, speakers, and activists in the community who, and we also help foster a leadership pipeline. Shout out to everyone who is on the BN leadership team, our board members, our affiliate leaders, those who work with us on our live stream show, and everyone who volunteers with us and everyone who supports us. Again, 2026, you will see us celebrating our 15th anniversary as an organization, which means there will be a couple of huge celebrations. We hosted the first ever secular Juneteenth celebration this year. We have talked about voter suppression. We continue to participate in a number of we continue to collaborate and sign our names to a number of initiatives, especially the executive order that was trying to attack nonprofit organizations that did not agree with the Christian nationalist agenda. So we are very, very front-facing on the front lines of separation of religion and government, the voices and the advocacy on behalf of non-religious people everywhere, but definitely Black non-religious folks. And so for my 49th birthday, which is tomorrow, you can start today. You can start yesterday. Our work is we're a 501c3 organization, and donations are always needed and appreciated. So I invite you to send a super chat through the line to support their work, but also to go directly to blacknonbelievers.org and make your donation. Every bit helps, because again, we support community advocacy, education, and more. We are such a multifaceted organization and I'm very, very proud of the work that we do. And I'm very, very proud of the work that our partners do. And we will continue for 15 years more, and as long as we are able. So that is Black Nonbelievers in a nutshell. And you can find us everywhere on the interwebs. I'm sure there will be an opportunity to talk more about it. But yes, this is what we have coming up. We are looking forward to the fall, BNC Con, celebrating my birthday, because we need some celebration at some point in this year. Like you said, we can't, if we care about everything else, we don't take care of ourselves. And it's important for us to take care of ourselves whenever we can. And so I'm definitely trying to do that for my birthday weekend. So yes, visit blacknonbelievers.org, learn more, make your donation today, and also purchase some swag.
Well, I thought I was going to have a good weekend and a little joy and levity when Kankel's McTaco Tits went missing for a period of time. But actually, there was part of it that I found, Arden and I were talking, we found it peaceful, but also stressful in a different way, because the batshit irrational, let me get clicks in order to stay alive portion of the left were just like, oh my gosh, is it this? Is it this? And it was just a flood of videos on Trump's missing and is he dead and what's going on? And it was just like, don't you realize the second you do that, anybody with any sense is just going to be like, hey, take the rest of the day off, let them spin themselves up and then go golfing. Nothing's going to make it look like they got Trump derangement syndrome more than that. And that's pretty much what happened. But anyway, we got callers in the queue. We got a lot going on. And as always, these get priority here. Real quickly, this is one of many call-in shows. In addition to checking out Black Nonbelievers, you can become a member here on the channel. You can you can subscribe. You can go to patreon.com/calltheline. You can also go to linemerch.com to get line merch. But the big thing is there are shows that you can watch and participate in, even if you find one of them boring. That's for one jackass in chat. But there are shows going on most of the week, and there are getting to be more shows and more interactive things that we're doing. We are building up the Line Network. We're greatly appreciative for your guys' support, both as callers, as participators in chat, as super chatters, all that stuff. This is the Wednesday night show, the Hang Up. It's mine. I get to do whatever the hell I want, except when I'm not here, and then somebody else gets to do what they want. Thursday, it's the Transatlantic Call-In Show. That's at 2 p.m. Central. that is your opportunity to speak with real life trans people, to get information about trans issues, trans rights issues, to call in and have discussions, to get educated on issues. I spent a good chunk of this morning in a back and forth email with what I'm sure is the same person that had emailed me under a different account previously, who just is very, very, very confused. And it's really easy. They could have just called in the trans and call-in show and gotten answers pretty quickly. But it gave me some time to work on some issues. Also, the Sunday show, 2 p.m. Central, Sunday show, and then the Sunday show After Dark is at 7 p.m. Central. Those are on Sundays. I don't have the schedule up in front of me for the coming week. Monday is Skeptalk. Skeptalk focuses more on science education, woo, countering woo, teaching people to value science so that we don't get more states saying, you know what, let's just get rid of those vaccine requirements. It's kind of overrated, that whole life thing. And, plus we'll sell a lot of child-sized coffins. And we'll get rid of a lot of the old people who depend on herd immunity to protect them from stuff. And then we don't have to pay as much in Medicare and Medicaid. We don't have to pay as much in retirement. But it's just great. And then we can talk about how the population's in decline and how we need more people to breed so that we can get more money for the billionaires who run absolutely fucking everything. I don't know if all those issues will be on a Monday, but they could be. Tuesday night is Chewed Gum, that focuses on purity culture and issues that affect and harm women in general from a religious perspective, from individuals who are coming back at it from a formerly religious perspective or a current secular perspective. Because if you watch, like somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene is both a powerful, important, and on at least one occasion, completely correct woman who also, in other scenarios, is unpowerful, very wrong, and very weak. I'm glad that she's being strong now on an area that we agree on that she's right about. If only she could exercise some humility on other areas, that would be good. It would be great if Marjorie Taylor Greene called in to Chewed Gum on Tuesday evening to talk about the victims that spoke, what she plans to do about it, and to what extent her religious views contribute to the sort of culture that allows people to either excuse this or protect it or hide it. I love what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say today. I'm wondering if we can get her to call in to Chewed Gum to have the harder conversations, because quite frankly, anybody who's not willing to stand up for the victims and call out this abuse right now, it's not that those of us who do it are brave. It's the rest of you are grossly immoral. You are lacking in compassion. You're lacking in common sense. You have to call this stuff out, because the people who suffered are less likely to talk about what happened and to prevent it from happening in the future if they don't feel they're going to be supported. Oh, no, did you see what you were wearing? Wow, you were just 18 at the time. You were 15 at the time. What did you expect running around? This is the stuff that we hear all the time directed. I remember the first time, my ex-wife and others were telling me about getting dick pics. I thought it was a joke. I didn't think people just sent dick pics randomly.
Yes,
and
they
I
do.
don't know how random it is, but I've had women go, I don't think you get it, and then pull up their phone and scroll through dick pics. I had to go take pictures of my penis for a doctor, and I took a couple. No, it wasn't for that reason. But in any case, I could have sat there for years and still not had as many pictures of my penis on my phone as what I was being shown by my friends of ones. They don't know who these people are. It is so weird. The boundaries that people feel comfortable crossing, the distance gives them power. And the distance is what prevents us from helping the people in need. We've got to break through that distance and build communities. We got a bunch of callers here. Let's see if we can build some bridges somewhere. Sura is a theist, pronouns are he, I'm calling from Colorado. Sura, welcome. You're on with Mandisa and me.
Hello.
Hey Matt, hey Mandisa. Thanks for having me here.
Our pleasure. What's up?
All right, so Matt, I guess this is more of a question for you because I think I've heard you talk about this before, and I apologize if you've talked about this a lot, but you know, you you used to be a theist until you realized that that you weren't, and I'm sure there's a long story over there, but maybe I'm in a similar position myself, and I I don't know, like I'm questioning, right? But I get these very strong feelings of betrayal, and I'm afraid of losing my family and community if I start to question too much. And I just don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Well, Mandisa, I know he asked for mine, but of all the people I know, Mandisa has thoughts on community that are going to be. I would like for you to address how to deal with this potential loss, because you're coming from a slightly different background than I am.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that, Sura. I commend you for being able to admit that on the air. First of all, it's good to question whether your family knows it or not. You have to allow yourself to be able to do that. I think when it comes to it just, I think I may have a few more questions though. So which denomination are you Christian or a different religion?
Yeah, so we're Hindu.
Hindu. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a difference, right? So, not that it's all related, but because usually we assume that people are deconstructing from Christianity, which is the most popular or the most common. But seeing how family is very, very huge and like culture is very common with Hindus, as well as the caste system there. I'm not sure how relevant it still is, and whether things have changed or not. But I know that it can also be very challenging and also almost devastating to at least go against your family and cultural traditions. That's very, very commonplace in Hindu culture, and the Hindu religion. So, but I it's important to know that it is okay to do so. And even before you try to, find others in person, or even there are definitely places online where you can find even people who are deconstructing from Hinduism and what they went through. If you may not be in close proximity in person, it might be good to at least do a little research on what questions people may have had in deconstructing from that particular religion, because it matters other people who have gone through it, particularly within that religion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And your family may, I'm sorry, the family may not necessarily, and I don't want to get all in your family business, right? But the family may not necessarily turn on you if you question, but there's a possibility that you may face more challenges once you start to speak up and if you make the decision to leave.
Are you more worried that they will stop interacting with you and you will just miss those relationships? Or are you more worried that it's going to be just strained and difficult? Or are you more worried that they would cut you off, or that you would have to cut them off for your own kind of well-being?
Yeah, that's kind of, I get what you mean. The thing is, as as you guys said, and as Mandisa said, what happens? Now, maybe this is true for other religions too, but in Hinduism, it's really hard to separate culture, religion, family, and traditions. Like these are all kind of twisted
They're all
all up together. So
interlinked.
it's
Yes.
really difficult to separate that. Like even within Hinduism, there's a thing about like you have a duty towards your parents as well, and like to your community and to your family, and they have a duty towards you. So it's really hard. Like I know what you mean, but it's really hard for me to separate the religious beliefs with the culture and my family. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, so there are a few things that I think are happening here. I'm not sure. It sounds like your family is close knit and your community is very close knit. And you and I talked about that,
Yeah.
Matt. How everybody's in everybody's in everybody's business. That is true for a lot of these communities, and so I imagine that if you start to express an idea that might be different, the word might travel fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when I talked about betrayal, it was I don't know how to explain it, but it might sound silly to somebody who's not originally from India, but it's like for me to be a good person in the eyes of my family, I should be a devout religious person. Now, obviously, I am religious, I guess, but I have been questioning a lot about what I believe in. Like, is it true, or is it like I'm happy to settle on a compromise and say that maybe like God or whoever is just a metaphor for like the universe or something. Like, but it's not literally true, and there's no way that I can prove whether it's true or false. I don't have any evidence of God, but
Right.
I can
So,
settle on that compromise. Yeah.
yeah. So, quick question. I'm sorry. So, I know Hinduism is very polytheistic, right? There are many different deities in Hinduism.
Yeah.
So, how does the family or the community decide which of the deities are you supposed to follow? Is it one of them? Is it all of them? Or, I mean, these are questions that, I'm guessing that these are questions that you may have had. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
Or thoughts in your head, but certainly that has to be a part of the question, that it's so, Hinduism in itself is so polytheistic that it may be hard to, people may cherry pick which ones they, want to follow on any given day, but it's just, can you kind of go through that a little bit?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, the best word is cherry picking, honestly. There's no, I don't know if there's a process, at least I don't think there is one, where a family decides that they're going to follow this deity. A lot of Hindus, they do kind of believe in all of them, but when it comes to religious practices and worship, they usually pick a few. Like there's a concept of like the deity of the household. Like that's a concept in Hinduism where the household as a rule would prefer to like worship like a specific god. And there's like different denominations within Hinduism. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Yeah, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but yeah, sorry, I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, Matt. What are your thoughts?
Well, we learned some stuff. I don't know that I got an answer to the question that I was asking, which was when you talk about you're afraid of losing something. Is it more the case that you're afraid of you cutting them off or them cutting you off?
I think the latter, and also so them cutting me off, but also having my perception changed in their mind. Like it would change how they would see me, and they would not see me as as a loving member of the family anymore.
Yeah.
Because by questioning the deeply held beliefs, I'm questioning like their own beliefs, and therefore questioning their morality, and it goes on and on.
Yeah. It puts you in this position where it becomes kind of clear, hey, we're no longer on the same page, and that means you think we're wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, you should absolutely own that. Anything close to denial of the fact that you think they're wrong is going to be obvious very quickly. And it's really kind of pointless to be in any position to even attempt to deny that that's what's happening. And what you need to do is be ready to say, I don't think necessarily that your conclusion is wrong. I'm just not convinced in the same way that you are for the same reasons that you are. Can you demonstrate the truth of this other than, oh, it's tradition, oh, it's our religion, oh, it's our community, oh, that we're getting away from, is this true, to is it good? Because if you'll find some of them, some people, when I say some of them, some people care more about whether or not you're in the group than whether or not you really believe or even profess belief or say you believe. And it's going to be different. I don't know what it's like to be you, back to the very first thing I said at the start of the show. I also don't know what it's like to live with a traditional Hindu family or any one of a variety of Hindu families. Most of the Hindus that I've interacted with have been really kind and loving to me, and are generally like, yeah, that's us. That's not you. It's no big deal. And I've met a number of people who are atheists and yet I don't know what the right phrasing is. My apologies for being stupid and Western centric, but they're still practicing and participating in the religious culture without the religious belief. And so to whatever extent you can participate with your family. I mean, if their beliefs are doing harm, that should just be called out, whether they're true or not, whether there's good reason or not, if their beliefs are doing harm. If their beliefs aren't doing harm, but in fact are just building community, great. There are gay-friendly Christian churches with rainbow flags up everywhere. The Southern Baptist me, if I don't want to reach up and grab my Jesus hat, but I have one, think that those churches are an absolute blasphemous abomination of Christianity. They're not real. They're cherry picking, and they're trying to use the love that Jesus was talking about in a way that makes it okay for them to be who they are. That's the Southern Baptist in my head. The humanist in my head is like, yeah, I think their religion is bullshit, but the fact that they're trying to be better to each other and for each other is something that I can support. So while I have no interest in attending the church, I'm going to hang out more with the people who go to that gay-friendly church and not give a shit whether or not they're real Christians than I am with people from Westboro Baptist Church or pick a hater. I mean, it's not, you could throw a dart and hit a million Christian bigots. I think it's a little harder to hit a bigoted humanist, but they do exist. The point I'm getting at is that if there's a way for you to let your family, first of all, I wouldn't make a big deal about coming out. It should be a gradual thing. That is, you just start being more honest about who you are and answering questions more honestly, whether it's a testing the water sort of scenario. Just stop being dishonest, but you don't have to go charging through the wall to leave like a Wile E. Coyote sized imprint on it. You can just gradually be who you are. They're going to start asking you questions about what you believe. And you can say, I don't think I believe in these supernatural aspects. I don't think I believe in these cultural aspects. but I believe in our family and our community. I value those things. I love you guys. I want to do things and be with you. How much does it really make a difference if I believe this, if I'm still a good person doing good things? It's very difficult, especially for a parent, to look at the child they love and recognize that they are in fact a good person, and then say, nope, you're evil, you're done, you've done something. I know that some religions are better at ostracizing that way. Islam is much more horrific with honor killings and we're going to ostracize you. And there are Christian communities that basically other and ostracize people left and right. Mormons are that way. Sometimes the nicer they appear, the nastier they are behind the scenes. So pull back the curtain. But I think if you let your family know that you value aspects of that, the ones that you find good and useful, and that you value and love your family, if they're willing to make life harder for you or ostracize you after that, then I'm sorry to say it, you might have to. I know I'm a little weird. I'm a little unusual, and that is, I don't give a shit who is my blood relative. I don't care who you are. You will treat me and the people I love and care about with dignity and respect, or you can get fucked. I don't care if you're my mom. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need that sort of. I would rather be focused on the good. Now, fortunately, I can still get along with my mom and my dad. That we're, that's not the thing. But you have to be comfortable in who you are and saying, I'm going to risk this relationship, because if this relationship keeps me from making the world better, living the right life, doing the things that benefit me and the world and the people I care about, then that relationship, whether it's a family, whether it's a religion, whatever, is toxic and needs to go away for my own mental health. And yes, it will hurt, and you will grieve, and you will suffer, because in some way you have family members have essentially died off to you, but it does get better.
Absolutely. And because I was going to say, Sura, if I may, that ultimately it is about your, it really must be, you can't live your entire life to please your family, right? At some point, if this is and I mean, it's easier said than done, right? Especially in close-knit families. But ultimately, you have to come to a sense of how you are. And if it is at odds with what you're learning, then you have to make that decision that is good for you, so that you can continue to be the best person that you are for yourself and for your family. And that goes by, even if you disagree, you lead by example. It's about overcoming that fear. And that's why I said there are places that, you can at least try to research to find support in that, even if it's not your family. Because unless they're looking over your shoulder, and watching everything you do, you should be able to find some sort of resource where you can talk to others who've had similar experiences that you can talk to in order to help you prepare. You don't have to go through it alone. You don't have to face that fear alone. But like Matt said, you have to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable, even if that means your family is uncomfortable for a while, or if forever. But that's something that will have to be on them, because you have to find where you sit with it and be good with it.
I know. I get what you mean, and I also just want to clarify. I left India, and I don't even remember, because I was very young, and I've lived most of my life abroad, and I've lived in like 6 different countries. That's a long story, but so it was kind of the religion and culture was a way of just holding on to something that makes you feel better, makes you feel at home. So that was another big aspect of it. But I think what you said and what Matt said is that you're right. Like you can't live. Well, A, you got to find other support systems, and B, I agree that I can't live my life to please to please my family, but it's just something I have to contend with. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Thanks.
I don't know
Joe.
if I have anything
Yeah.
to add. I don't envy your position. It's difficult. It's potentially awful. And this is one of those things where religions opt for and pretend to a throne that is not theirs. They co-opt the things about humanity that make us who we are, that we value, that we share, and pretend like we can only get those if we stay a part of that in-group. And this isn't just true of organized religions, it's true of a number of insular communities. I'm trying to be as done with insular communities as I can be. Because I very rarely see the benefits outweighing the risks. I think it's added to this divisiveness. But Sora, give yourself permission to have honest conversations and say, I love you, here's what I'm dealing with. I need to know how you feel about what I'm dealing with. Because how would you feel? I mean, granted, if one of your relatives came to you and said, I've been struggling a lot with, our faith, our culture, whatever, and I've decided that I think I want to move, get away from all of the other influences, and ostracize myself and all of our family from the rest of the world because I think that's better. That would be really, I mean, it sounds strange, but that's kind of what you would be telling them. And so getting them to understand where you're at is essential, because if you don't ever do that, they're just going to assume everything's fine because they got enough shit going on without adding imaginary shit from you to it. And when they get little inklings that things aren't fine, it's going to build suspicion. It's going to fester. It's going to make the conversation more difficult. You don't have to blindside somebody and make a big deal. But there's a way to say, hey, I'm struggling with something. Can we talk? Because I value your input and I love you. And that goes a long. How easy is it to get pissed at somebody when they're telling you, I love you and I need your help?
True. I see your point. Also, one thing I didn't mention is I think what you're talking about is also kind of step one on me being able to live a life that's different from exactly what my parents want. I think that's another part of it, is because they want me to do stuff a certain way based on religious beliefs. I won't go into it because it's a big tangent, but there's a lot of things, LGBT rights, what I want to do in life, a lot of stuff that kind of tied to that. And until I do what you're saying, I will never be able to get to step 2 of doing the things I want.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. So give us some time, think about it. You've just got to make a decision of, I need to be me more than I need person A, B, C, relative D, E, F to approve of me. It would be very nice if everybody liked and approved of us, but that's not going to happen. And if you're genuinely focused on making your life better, making the world better for other people, then the people who don't like you for that, they got a problem. And you just need to give yourself permission to be like, you know what? I'm happy to try to talk to you and explain it to you for a bit. And then I got to move on, because it will feel like if you're not going to willingly keep agreeing with them, they're going to like tie a rope around the back of your vehicle so that you're sitting here spinning your wheels, explaining them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then you still get nothing done. You've got all of this toxic conflict in your life and you've got nothing done on what you actually want to do. If you genuinely want to make the world a better place and live your life, get fucking started. Don't waste any more time. I wasted time on a number of things. I was talking with a friend of mine, Joe Stevenson, just the other day. We are both, it was like 6 months apart. Both of us are healthier now than we've been in the last 30 years, pretty much. And I'm like, how sad that we waited until the world was about to end before we started getting healthier. And so we made a pact that we're each going to try to outlive the other one, and have a bit of fun with it. Get people in your life who are that kind of supportive, even when you fucked up, even when you waited too long. Yes, there's no time like the present. Stop putting off for tomorrow what you should have done 3 months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Sweet.
thank you, Matt and Mandisa, for your insights. I mean, yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you,
No
sir.
problem. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah.
Check back in and let us know
Side note,
if it's better or worse than you thought it would
Definitely.
be whenever you make a decision.
definitely, Matt. And I just want to say, side note, we didn't talk about this aspect as much, but in my questioning a lot of the beliefs, I've been watching some of your videos, and I think that they definitely help me put things in perspective. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much for saying so. I appreciate that. Go.
Thank you.
Be better, live awesome, because it could all end tomorrow. Or today. I don't know.
No, it can't end today. I have a birthday to celebrate tomorrow.
Well, I think
It
you're
can't end
probably going to
tomorrow
get to
either.
celebrate your birthday, but I don't make promises I can't keep, usually. Ray is calling from Washington. Ray is an atheist, pronouns are he, him, wants to know if we're getting it wrong on why people actually believe. How you doing, Ray?
Hi, Ray.
Good. Hello.
What
Can you
are
hear
we
me well?
probably wrong about? Or possibly wrong about?
So atheists like to talk about evidence and how there's no evidence for people to believe, but the reason those people started believing wasn't because of evidence. It's like what can be posited without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. The opposite side of that is what someone believes without evidence, they're not going to stop believing because of evidence.
Okay. Whoops. So I'm just going to go with me. I used to be a fundamentalist Christian. I believed because I thought I had evidence. I believed because I became convinced that it was true. And when I discovered that my evidence wasn't sufficient to warrant belief, I could not stay in belief. I don't understand when you say atheists say, because as the atheist you're talking to, or one of the atheists you're talking to, I don't think that they believe because of good evidence. I think they believe because of bad evidence and bad reasoning, and that the statement that people cannot be reasoned out of beliefs they weren't reasoned into is not only false but particularly stupid. And I don't mean that towards you. I just mean as the sentence, because they were in fact reasoned into it. There is a thing called bad reasoning. If you are convinced that Trump is on your side, you were reasoned into it because somebody made an emotional plea. Somebody made some other fallacious plea. Somebody presented a lie. Somebody presented misinformation that you considered and valued as evidence. If you're not going to address the fact or address their claim and say, do you have good reason to believe it? What other way do you have to convince people to stop believing?
So, I think you're conflating the two things a little bit, and it might be the case for some Christians that they're completely about evidence, but for most of them, I think evidence.
Ray, I'm not talking about just Christians or anything else. I'm talking about everyone on the planet who believes something for bad reasons. What method would you use to convince them that they believe for bad reasons other than good reasons to show that their reasons are bad?
Well, I think they need what they got in the first place. Like, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I think for some people, like, a religion will come to them when they're struggling, and they'll give them food and support, and that's the actual reason. And then they kind of go back.
You think that there's a significant portion of the population that were in need, and religion showed up and gave them community, and this convinced them that it was true, not that it was good or not that it was worth participating in, and not that it was a community for them, but convinced them that it was true. And that the solution to this is to fill that need somewhere else, whether it's true or not.
I think I lost you at the end there, but I'm not saying that's a significant number. I'm just saying that's one of the things.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, Ray. As somebody who's done this for decades, I've repeatedly and consistently said, people believe for different reasons, and they are going to give it up for different reasons. But outside of reasoning, I can advocate for no other method to try to convince them. I will not be lying to people. I will not be bribing people either with a sandwich when they're hungry and saying, oh, I'm only going to give this to you if you stop talking to Jesus. So I'm here asking as a matter of strategy. You called in and said, hey, are atheists getting it wrong about why people actually believe? My position is that people believe for a number of different reasons, and that every single belief every person on the planet has ever held is a belief that is the result of reasoning, whether it's good reasoning or bad reasoning. Belief is a state of being convinced, and becoming convinced is a process. Where am I wrong?
So I agree that there's reasons, but I don't think that those are always the result of reasoning as something someone actively does, but something more passive, like they have a group of people that they're able to get along with, or something along those lines, something more, or I guess less tangible than just logic someone can state.
Well, Ray, if I may, there are some people who were raised as children to believe in certain gods, right? They were indoctrinated. Many of us were indoctrinated, not just into religion, but also into cultural norms, societal norms, and also to believe that certain things were true, because that is what was instilled in us, maybe through our parents, maybe through teachers and through other community members. So, like Matt said, there are many different reasons and also different circumstances as to how people came to believe what they believe, and also, like you said, how people may have come out of it. I certainly don't like to assume or presume that someone is just simply wrong or stupid because they believe, because that's not always the case. In many instances, if not all, many of us were indoctrinated, or at least, raised in different, in maybe religious, in churches or other cultural institutions. And that is why we grow up with certain perspectives. Now, whether those are right or wrong is that can be either debated or discussed. And also we can try to demonstrate through objectivity, and also with information and education, what is true and what is good and what is harmful. So it's not just simply about what we're getting wrong, because many of us, if we consider ourselves rational and objective human beings, know that there is no one right or even one wrong way to be indoctrinated, to be convinced at some point, but then also to come out of it. It's a very, very vast and also nuanced and complicated. It's a complicated, nuanced situation that does not have one answer.
Right. Yeah. there are a lot of different ways, but it seems a lot of people think that someone should be able to realize with just a logical argument that they're wrong. And sorry, what?
Who says that? Yeah.
It just seems like on a lot of these sort of...
Ray, I stopped listening a little while ago.
Okay.
I can appreciate the frustration, but you called in to say, hey, are atheists wrong about why people believe? First of all, atheists have a lot of different positions on this. And I told you exactly what I believe and asked you, where am I wrong? You offered absolutely nothing to suggest that I was wrong. I'm not here to answer for all the atheists real or all the atheists that live in your fucking head. Is there an issue that you want to address and offer an actual solution for? Because I don't give a shit about random opinions from people who've never done this.
Okay, so, I think part of the issue is people don't really see how atheists or the atheist position will help them. They don't really see them doing things in their community.
I don't care, Ray. Ray, I'm not a fucking salesman. I'm not saying life is better with atheism. Atheism doesn't do anything for you. Atheism will not do anything for you. It is a singular position on a singular issue. I will sell skepticism and I will sell humanism because those are actually beneficial and good. I have nothing to sell with atheism. And I don't have any interest in propping up the individuals who think that we need to be better salespeople of what atheism can do for you, because atheism cannot do shit for you. Tell me, Ray, what can atheism do for you?
Now, I will say, Matt, I will disagree a bit. I'm sorry, Ray. I will say that for the individual, that atheism can be liberating to one's religious perspective, especially if they come to the conclusion or make an informed decision that no gods exist. I think it is important for us as atheists to own that identity. However, like Matt said, it's important for everyone to exercise skepticism and humanism. But on an individual level, I can't tell anyone how to be a good atheist except for not believing in any God, spirits, or supernatural beings. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis Loubet famously on an episode of Nonprofits was asked, when you get rid of religion, what do you replace it with? And he said, when you cure cancer, what do you replace it with? Curing cancer is the solution. Getting rid of bad beliefs is the solution. The benefit is that you don't have to continue being wrong, but that's not atheism doing that. That's rational thought doing that. I don't need to sell atheism. I never tried to sell atheism. There's nothing to sell. It is the position of not being convinced a God exists. And you can be an atheist and a completely shitty person. You can be an atheist and be absolutely think, oh, I'm good enough to not need religion, but the little people, let the little people keep them. You can be an atheist and not care about church-state separation. You can be an atheist and be a bigot, a transphobe, anti-queer. You can be a racist. You can be any number of things. What is it about atheism that you think is worth selling?
So I'm a little bit confused because you were saying that...
I'm sorry. The question was, what is it about atheism that you think is worth selling?
Right, because it sounds like you're going on the premise that we're all simply trying to convince believers that they're wrong. Now, there might be some atheists who do that, but there are many of us who don't.
I'm sorry. You're saying you're not trying to convince believers that they're wrong?
No, or that we're not
Ray, stop and listen.
Yeah.
First of all, that is not at all what I said. It is also not at all what I meant. It's not even in the fucking ballpark. I'm trying to find out if there's a good reason to believe in a God. If people believe for bad reasons, I'm going to convince them that they believe for bad reasons or try to. That is not me selling atheism. It is me teaching skepticism It is me teaching good epistemology. If it turns out they're correct, then I should agree with them. See, I have no dedication to atheism or non-belief. My dedication is to skepticism and humanism. If there's a God and he's not a humanist, he can fuck right off. Or explain it in a way where I find something better than humanism, although I don't get that. So no, I didn't say that I'm not interested in convincing believers that they're wrong. I have no idea if they're wrong about whether or not a God exists. I'm pretty confident that they're wrong about whether or not they're justified in believing a God exists, and I'm willing to have that conversation. But the question I asked you, what does atheism have that you feel is worth selling?
So, sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around this distinction.
It's a really simple question. You're sitting here saying that there are people who believe and continue to believe because nobody's offered them whatever their religious community offers. Well, first of all, that is not necessarily a belief. That is not necessarily a belief that their religion is true. It's a belief that their religion is beneficial. I'm saying, what does atheism offer that you think we should be selling? How hard is this? I've asked like 4 times now.
Well, what I'm saying is people are getting something out of their religion.
Ray, say it one more fucking time. I dare you. What the fuck does atheism offer that you think we should be selling? How many times can I ask the same question? Did you not realize that when I ask a question on the show, you've been fucking... Shut up.
Benefits.
I don't give a shit if there's benefits. I'm asking you, what benefit does atheism have that you think we should be selling?
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's benefits to atheism.
Goodbye, Ray.
But,
goodbye, Ray. I asked you.
I'm trying to answer your question.
No, you're not, you fucking liar. I asked you 4 or 5 times, what benefit does atheism have that you think we should be selling? I gave you multiple opportunities, and now you've danced yourself in a circle where you just a minute ago, asserted atheism has benefits. Tell me what the fuck they are.
Right, I'm trying to finish that sentence. Part of my problem is...
That's which sentence you just finished. All right. Let's go on to something actually important and useful. Michaela's calling from Georgia. Michaela, pronouns they, them, has a question. Welcome to the show, Michaela. You're on with Mandisa and me.
I'm Michaela.
Hi, Matt and Mandisa. Sorry. Glad you're back on the show. Thanks for having me. Today, I guess I kind of just want to have a oh man, I don't know why. Every time I answer the phone, I get out of breath.
You'll be fine.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about me, I want to have a conversation about, how can we get more, Black women involved in secular humanism? Because I believe that the framework that we have, especially if we're talking about left-wing secular humanism, this framework is very beneficial to Black women. And I guess the reason why I got so passionate about it is that, one day, me and my mom and sister, we were watching a video, and I'll keep this short, but essentially it was a video of a wedding, and a man was saying that, hey, my last name is coming off of her, your last name is coming onto her. But when my last name was on her, she was steady, she was a survivor and everything. And, I was basically trying to make a point that this is like ownership. It's like this is like a biblical, passing of property from one man to another man. I was trying to explain this to my mom and sister. My mom's very conservative. Sister is somewhat progressive. But when I tried to explain that, it didn't I felt like it fell on deaf ears. And I listen to a lot of Black women who are progressive, Black women who are conservative. And whenever I try to explain my point of view to them, I have like a hard time getting through to them. It could be a litany of issues, you know. 'Cause I had a conversation. Sorry, I had a hard conversation with my sister about the term cisgender, and I was able to get through to her, but it was hard. It took a lot of patience on my end, and I guess, you know, I try to challenge my own biases because I was raised to view myself as a cisgender Black person, and in how I was raised, I was kind of indoctrinated, not just with Christianity, but I was also indoctrinated to view Black women in a negative light. And unlearning that
I'm
is a
sorry, I
lifelong
couldn't
process.
quite hear that. You said you were indoctrinated to view Black women in a negative light?
That's
Yeah.
that's more common than people think. It's very,
Yeah,
very,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure I heard it right. I'd
No,
love to
I
understand that
did.
better, but I wasn't sure I heard it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you know, when I look at my own negative biases that I have against Black women, I get upset with myself. Because, you know, obviously, you know, I'm a trans sim, and I've really been wanting to have this conversation, especially with women. I kind of rehearsed this conversation, but like the gist of what I'm trying to get at is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what left wing secular humanism has for Black women is very beneficial, and I guess I just need advice on how to go about it. I want to put Black women onto secular humanism. I don't need Black women to become atheists. I just want a more humanistic approach into not, you know, we can get to the Bible a bit, but I just kind of get your thoughts for that.
Okay, well, I guess I can start that. First, it's Mandisa, Michaela. Thank you for calling in.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So there's a lot to unpack there. For one, I would say, regardless of whether Black women are religious or not, it is always important to see us for the strong human beings that we are and have been. That often gets lost just in general in society, especially in this country. And to Matt's question about being basically raised to hate Black women, that is a very common thing among Black folks. It's called internalized racism, internalized hatred, and misogynoir. And a lot of that is due to the enslavement in this country and the propagation of the image of a white god that will never, and to be taught that Black was ugly. And then also the principles of Christianity and most of the Judeo-Christian religions, which look down on women. So a lot of these things are passed through subliminally, and they've been internalized by men, women, LGBTQ folks, and the like. So I think that it is, you might want to start by thinking of your intentions for, you know, what are your intentions for the women in your life to embrace secular humanism? Is it because you truly want all of us to be better, or you just happen to think that it may suit them better? Because remember, there are people who are still very emotionally tied to the church and to their religions because, you know, especially for Black women. And there has to be that understanding. And they also should be allowed to think about things. And it may be a little difficult, especially if they're older. But it's going to be important to think about what your intentions are for, especially helping your family members to understand your position better, if that makes sense. You have to work on you. You have to work on you before you help. You have to help yourself before you help them in this instance, because there is still a lot that you are unpacking yourself. And I appreciate your candor and your honesty about that, because there are so many people who go through this and don't think about it, and who are not willing to admit that they have their own biases.
Absolutely.
So I think it's
absolutely. And
mm-hmm.
I do appreciate what you said earlier. And one thing you did say, now keep in mind, is that what are my intentions? I don't think I really sat down and asked myself, what are my intentions? I guess, I'm very passionate about things. And what you were saying earlier about being an atheist, it is, I think you and Matt made great points in our last conversation about what atheism is and how it can also be liberating. I didn't feel liberated. And I guess I just get so angry sometimes with Black women because, it's like, don't you want to be liberated? Because, my mom, has joined a religious organization called IUIC. They are very backwards. If you think the red pill community is bad, if you think the red pill community is misogynistic, you're in for something special. But I guess the bigger point I'm trying to get to is that the Black community has put a lot of stress on Black women. And if we could just we have, I guess the way I see it, we would have to start, if we want, Black women to be less taken advantage of in our community, because Black women do carry a lot of burdens. And I guess the way I see it, if we could just heal the colonial wounds, we could get us something that's a little bit more better. And I feel like we would kind of have to start with the Bible. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So before Matt responds, because I see it on his face, I see it on his face. But I will say that also puts a burden on us to think that you absolutely have to save us. We don't need to be saved. What we need is support. What we need is empathy. What we need is for you to work on you so that we can help each other. The burden that is put on us is when we think that people absolutely need to save us. But part of the reason why there is a burden is because people aren't listening to us. Now, here I have been out in these streets, as we say, for going on 15 years. You're in Georgia. I'm based in Georgia. Black Nonbelievers is headquartered in Georgia. I think part of the reason, there are a lot of people who need the support that we offer and the work that we do. But many of us, and I say us collectively, are still holding on to these patriarchal notions about who has the right answers and how Black women are seen to not be the ones who have them, or don't, or not being supported in that. And that's something that really needs to change. Because I'll tell you, Black women, we know when we know when people are being condescending towards us, and that's one of the worst things you can do. Even if your intentions are good, we can sense that. I don't want to say, and then there's nothing wrong with feeling, because feelings are valid. But you tell anybody, if you go to anybody and say, well, I'm trying to save you because of this, that, and the third, you're automatically going to get pushed back. Now, if the folks are listening to well-reasoned positions and arguments, then that's something to be said about that. But the care that you hold for the women in your life, as well as Black women in general, will make a difference. And it's about unlearning. It's about learning that misogynoir, or learning that whatever it is that you recognize that makes you look at Black women in a negative light. That's going to have to start from within first, and then understand the institutional factors of how we got here. Part of that, it has a lot to do with religion and the Bible. It has a lot to do with the transatlantic slave trade and the exploitation of Black people, period. So again, this is a huge subject to unpack, but it definitely you have to acknowledge the strength of the Black community and the resilience of the Black community, especially Black women, before we can start unpacking how we can continue to work with each other, if that makes sense. And I hope I'm not rambling here.
Absolutely, it makes sense.
So, yeah, I mean, largely out of my depth. If this had been a call about IUIC and the other Black Hebrew Israelite offshoots,
Mm-hmm.
I would have had a lot more to kind of to dig in on that, because I mean, these are, well, I'm not going to go down the sensationalized route. Mandisa's, I'm in agreement with Mandisa. It's, figure out what your motivations are. It's going to be frustrating because, like, I'm going to bet, Michaela, that you probably think Mandisa and I have at least good intentions, if not the best intentions, on a number of issues. And yet we haven't fixed the world. We haven't fixed our friends. We haven't fixed our family. You might be the wrong person for the Black women near you to listen to. It may need to be that they need to interact with somebody else, that you might not be the one that is going to convince them of anything. And this notion, I'm not going to fucking ride in and be a white knight for anybody. I just, when it comes to something like the religious aspect, we can talk about how and why people believe and whether or not they should. If people are convinced something is true because there's a benefit to it, as the last caller was suggesting, pointing out that they're not on rational ground and that those benefits may not be available outside of there is fine, but it doesn't change what the belief is. You can't confuse, I believe Jesus Christ is the risen Son of God, with, I believe that my church helps me. Those are not the same thing. And if they believe their church helps them, it's probably true. Like, to some extent. Not maybe there'd be better ways to help them. Maybe the church is harming them in ways as it helps them. Maybe the church is harming them in massive ways as it helps them. I don't know how to do anything other than, what do you believe and why? Because if you say believe Jesus Christ is Lord and your reason is your church is good to you, boom, we're already done. Because your argument for why does not tie to that. Oh, well, I don't grasp it that way. That's fine. We can have a secondary conversation. But when it comes to what you're trying to do with your goals, not only am I in agreement with Mandisa, I don't have a goal of making anyone be an atheist. I don't have a goal of, I have a goal of presenting the best case for humanism and the best case for skepticism that I can with the people who are willing to interact on those things. But I'm not running a used car sales lot. I don't have any reason to sell atheism. And I'm not cocksure that my positions are right on things. But I do think I have some understanding of how I'm better off now than I was when I was a believer, and how other people have expressed similar things. But if somebody needs their family and their community, and without their family and their community, they're going to be destitute and despondent, stick with it and maybe try to make your family and your community better, or that religion better. I don't think you're going to have any luck with the absolute garbage fest that is IUIC and stuff. I mean, these guys are...
Yeah, I have
these
never
guys
heard
are
of
misogynist, racist. They're the KKK for... They're the ones that the Black Hebrew Israelites that claim that we're the real descendants of the ancient Israelites.
Oh, there goes. Yes. Okay. And we've talked about them before on this show. So, Michaela, if I may, the best way to impart secular humanism, especially, you said this is your mom who joined this cult?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The best way to impart your secular humanism is maybe try to find out why she decided to join, what were her reasons. And if this, because again, you can never know exactly, because as parents, we're human too. We go through shit that we may not want our kids to know about. But if there is something that drew her to it, the best way to show that secular humanism is better is to at least try to be there to support her whenever you can. If she is asking you for something that they are trying to get her to, to try to get to, that they are trying to get her to get from you, it's important for you to ask questions, and where she might be able to receive alternative or like actual, because if it's something emotional, that's usually why women join cults like this. I've seen, I've experienced, my mother actually joined with the 5% in New York. I'll be 49.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up in the 80s, grew up in New York in the 70s and 80s. So yes, I remember the 5%. They're sort of like the cousins to Hebrew Israelites. It was because of my younger brother's father. And so usually it is tied into some sort of romantic relationship or some sort of emotional gap or void. It might be good without trying to get all in her business to find out what that is, and also see how you might be able to try to help her find alternatives. And do so in a way that you are not judging her, but at least showing that you're supporting her, because somewhere along the line, if this if this group is as bad as we know them to be, she might be coming to y'all looking for resources or things to get for them. And that's when you may have to put your foot, not your foot down in such a harmful way, but showing because we don't just like to, well, I know for myself and Matt, right? We don't just like to tell people, we like to show them. And so that might be the best way to show your mom the secular humanism, is by showing her that support, asking objective questions when she comes to you, and being there for her when she needs, because it sounds like she needs something in particular that she feels like she's not getting anywhere else. And so if she is the type of person who might eventually be able to express what that is, as your mother, but also as an adult, it might be good to hear her out, because again, we don't stop being human because we're parents.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Both of you have gave me great responses, and I think I can work with this. But I guess typically whenever me and my mom have conversations about this, it does get pretty passionate. I've never taken the route of like coming to her in a more vulnerable emotional level, because I guess this all started back in 2016. My mom and dad picked me up from work. It was like, hey, did you know that we're the real Jews? I was like, what are you talking about? And my dad was like, well, why do you think black men dominate the NBA? It's because we have the Israelite DNA. And
Oh God.
it's like,
oh boy.
yeah.
What is it about Israelite DNA that makes them particularly good at the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, I didn't.
There was a documentary. Who was it that got in trouble for showing that documentary? Was it Kyrie Irving? Yeah, it was Kyrie Irving who was showing that propaganda about about Jews, and I think it was very, very heavily Hebrew Israelite. It's oh boy, yeah, it's a whole lot to unpack there. I get it.
It was really wild is that, they say that the Jewish people are not the real Jews. I looked it up, and archaeologists have found ancient Israelite remains, and these remains are much more related to the people there today. They're not related there's no sub-Saharan DNA, there's no Latinos in there, but I've been doing so much research and debunking this, because Hebrew Israelism, I know I tell them a lot every time I come on here, but they're the biggest reasons as what pushed me into atheism. Because, when my mom and dad picked me up that day, they were talking about, oh, we're the real Jews and all that. I was just so like, what? And, I was really on my way out. It was really Eddie Griffin and my parents told me this that turned me into, like, that kind of pushed me into atheism. And then, I guess, when my father died in 2020, I think that's kind of like the third thing that kind of like pushed me out of it. Was like, you know, the idea of my father being in some alternate reality and continue to live that didn't seem probable. And I guess around that time, that's when my mom started going, because she was Hebrew Israelite adjacent at first, kind of like Kendra Lamar is Hebrew Israelite adjacent. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, Hebrew Israelism is what pushed me into atheism. And a lot of that, because I've had conversations with IUIC, I've had conversations with Genesis. They don't play fair at all. They really press your buttons when you debate them. But like,
well,
you know,
I would say one of the best things to do at this point is, this is one of the reasons why at Black Nonbelievers, even though we engage in interfaith dialogue, we do at times prepare for confrontations with religious people, but the main thing is finding other like-minded people, and being able to engage with each other, at least, you know, to get a better understanding of our positions, so that when we are engaging in dialogue with people with different perspectives, we can present them more objectively, even if we invoke emotion. But at least you know that there are others out there who can relate and who can support, and that you don't have to feel like you are alone and frustrated in dealing with your religious family members and friends. It matters that you connect with others in real time, whether it is virtual or in person, to help with those affirmations. And I'm not talking about religious affirmations. I'm talking about humanist affirmations. It's very, very important to find those connections from within, and in order to try to help get a better understanding of, like we said before, what your motivations are, and also the trauma that you might be experiencing from the passing of your father, being raised in this cult, because there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, not just, I keep saying unpack, but there's so much there, in really coming out of it, and a lot of that really is coming to terms with how this has been harmful, but also how you can overcome it with the help of people who have been there, because there are many of us who have been.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I learned a lot here, and I think, you know, because I guess I'm just so passionate. You know, I guess when I first came to atheist, I'll just give my kind of like final remarks here. I guess when I became an atheist, you know, I just wanted to tell the whole world and everything, and you know, I care a lot. Yeah, I care a lot about humanism, and I think the biggest takeaway here is that it's fine. I might not be the one to like convince a person, because especially, you know, back, you know, when I was in boot camp, you know, we had to do, you know, hardcore PT, and I was talking about how, you know, it was so hard. I was talking, because like when I was in the military, that was at the height of my religiosity. I was like very close to my chaplain, very close. And, you know, I was talking about how I had a hard time. I was praying. This atheist came up out of nowhere and said, like, "Oh, you do realize that prayer doesn't work, right?" And now I did become an atheist in my own time, of course, but I think in the hindsight, that still wasn't cool. Come at me and say, "Hey, prayer doesn't work," regardless if it's true or not. You have to kind of meet people where they are, and I think that's kind of. I mean,
if it's a legitimate rebuttal to someone who is constantly telling you to pray on it, that might be valid. There are times when it might be valid to say that, but just off the rip, I mean, that's not something I would do. But you know, there are different solutions to different things. So, but yeah, it's definitely a lot more. There are a lot more gray areas. There's a lot more that goes into it, because than just simply, like Matt said, just convincing people. It really will take support. It really will take having reasoned and objective dialogue. And again, just trying to get to the root of what those issues are so that you really can overcome them through clinical means, not through divine intervention, and not just simply on intuition or anything that doesn't have a basis in evidence.
Totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
I gotta say, both of you, this was a big help. You know, you both of you had definitely helped me look at this in a different way, to like not be so aggro with it, but just kind of, you know, kind of, yeah. I like what I was told here. Yeah, you know, I really appreciate the conversation, and I mean, I know. I guess my last thing I'll say here, but like, I would pay good money to watch you and Matt just debate an IUIC member. That would be, I would love to see that.
Well,
That
tell them to
would be
call in.
entertaining.
Yeah, tell them to call in.
Just don't tell your mom to call in, because I
Right.
take no prisoners and I take no bullshit. And if you're going to have, I've had people set up their moms before, or seemingly set up their moms before. And that's not a good idea. It's bad enough we get calls from people who aren't prepared. If people are, the person who isn't prepared, like if somebody did that to my mom, if somebody convinced my mom to call into the show, I'd be pretty pissed. But my mom and I have already had that fight. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, alrighty.
we got to move on. I appreciate the call, Michaela.
Yes,
And-
best of
and,
luck with that, and yeah, check back in. Let us know.
Yep.
Absolutely, we'll do. Both you have a good one. All right. Bye.
You
Yep,
too. Thank you.
You too. Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean the IUIC stuff and the Black Hebrew Israelites and others. They'll set up shop downtown here in Austin and a big podium. And they'll be out there preaching, and there'll be a whole bunch of men standing around, trying to interact with people and seeming imposing. And I don't see them engaging in anything beyond a preaching and authoritarian aspect. I don't see them engaging, and I don't know that they would.
They're always yelling at people, and I'm like, that's never a good way to get anyone's attention like that. I mean,
it's wild. I'm reluctant to loop all of them together, because I know they've had a number of splits and a number of different denominations.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of, I don't know. We've got one more call before we move on to super chats. One more call before we move on to super chats. We're going to be reading all the super chats that are over $10. We'll just take turns and go through them. But we have a theist caller calling in. Nelson's calling from New Jersey to talk about fine tuning as evidence for God. Pronouns are he, him. Hey, Nelson, how are you?
Hey, Matt, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. So I was wondering, what do you think about the fact that the cosmological constant, the energy density of empty space, is balanced so much higher? If it was higher, galaxies would never form. If it was lower, the universe collapses.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think we live in the universe where that didn't happen.
You don't think that that in kind of improbability points to
how is it
design?
improbable? How many universes that fall apart could possibly have life in them to think about the universe falling apart?
That's a good point.
Yeah. So here's the thing with fine tuning. People look around and they see it from our perspective and they say, oh, wow, this universe looks like it was fine tuned for me. But the reality is the word tuning is already dishonest, because what we're really saying is the physical features of the universe are consistent and compatible with us. Now, the question then is, why is that the case? Not how improbable it is. How improbable it is irrelevant, because this could be the only possible scenario, or there could be a billion different scenarios that we don't know about. We're stuck with this one. So the improbability is irrelevant. The issue is, do we have an explanation for why the physical facts of the universe and us and we are compatible? And it's either because the universe was intentionally tuned to produce us, or that we were intentionally tuned for the universe, or that the universe was not intentionally aligned, compatible with us, or that we were not intentionally aligned and that we were what could occur. Tuned implies an intention, and that's something that would need to be demonstrated. We tend to think of it like tuning a radio, but if I take an old school radio, like the ones I had when I was a kid, little transistor radio, go to bed at night. If I turned the radio off and I just spun the dial without looking, and I turned the radio on, is there a chance that I might be listening to music? Yeah. Did I tune it to that music? Did I tune it with the intent of producing that music? No, there was no intent. And we can demonstrate this by saying, okay, I'm going to roll a die, and that's going to tell me how many turns I do on this to the left, and then we'll roll another die and do that many turns to the right. And you sufficiently randomize it, you might still end up with hitting something of substance. Are we tuned in exactly, or we're not? So whether I tune into music or static, whether it was random or intentional, these are all potential explanations. How do we tell which one of them is right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. As soon as somebody shows how we can tell, then I'll have a better answer. But until then, all the people who are saying, "Oh, it's just so improbable, it must have been a god." Well, okay, I don't know how improbable it was. What if this is the only possible universe that could have ever formed? Then it's not improbable at all. It's 100%.
Do you find improbability as a good pointer to God?
Why would improbability? So let's say, for example, I have a 20-sided die right here. We know what the odds are. If I roll it, it's 1 in 20 that I would get the 16 that I just rolled. We can do the math, and we can keep rolling this die. If I get 16 83 times in a row, I don't even have to do the math. I can already guess that the odds of that are smaller than 1 in the total number of atoms in the universe. It might not be for 16. I'd have to check. How do we tell if that were to happen? How do we tell why it happened?
So improbability alone wouldn't convince you.
No, it would. Improbability is evidence of improbability. Why would improbability be evidence for a god? How do you know what a god is? How do you know that a god is possible? How do you know that what a god can do? How do you know that a god is even a candidate explanation for something happening that was highly improbable?
Do you have an idea of
I have an idea of what? You're on the web client. You may need to tap to wake the web client up. Sometimes it times out while you're on the phone or something.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You're saying, do I have an idea of, and it cut off right there. So what is it you want to know if I have an idea of?
Do you have an idea, since improbability in and of itself doesn't convince you, do you have an idea of a type of evidence that would convince you?
Nope. Because I don't know what the claim is. First, I don't know what the claim is, first of all. If you're saying, what would convince me that a god, a typical god, the god of classical theism or whatever, what would convince me that God exists? My answer has been the same for a decade or more. And that is, I have no idea what would convince me, but that kind of God should know exactly what would convince me and should be able of providing the evidence that would convince me. And the fact that that hasn't happened means either that God doesn't exist or doesn't want me to know it exists. Either way, it's not my problem. God needs to demonstrate itself in a way that is detectable and identifiable, just like everything else. I accept the same evidence to convince me of every single claim. And so if somebody says, hey, I ordered a new toothbrush off Amazon yesterday, I have a fuck ton of evidence that Amazon exists, Amazon delivers stuff, Amazon sells toothbrushes, people buy toothbrushes, just mountains of it. It's their claim is absolutely trivial and completely supported by all of the available evidence. If somebody says they just ordered a ghost off of Amazon that will come to their house and do their dishes, I don't believe that, because I have no evidence that any of that is even possible, let alone likely. When there's just the same amount of evidence for the ghost that does your dishes as there is for a toothbrush being sent overnight from Amazon, then I will accept that there's a ghost that does dishes. I don't know the nature of that evidence because I don't know how to identify what's a ghost. I don't know how to tell the difference between something I don't understand and something else I don't understand. Like Arthur C. Clarke famously pointed out that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Because if you don't know how it works, those things are in the same. Now, not only are we stuck where I don't know what a God is or how a God works, I don't have any reason to think there is a God, or that anybody has any reason to think that that God exists, or that anybody has any reason to think that they know how that God works. And so when people come to me and say, God is the explanation for why people change their lives, God is an explanation for the origin of the universe, God is the explanation for the foundation of logic or magic, I have no reason to believe them, because they have not demonstrated that they're basically claiming that they have detected something for which they cannot provide a mechanism to detect it.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I'll let you get to your super chats, and thank you for taking my call. Have a good night.
Thanks, Nelson. Well, Mandisa,
well, all right.
I was expecting Nelson to come back, and I was going to be like, well, I've told you what I think. Let's get Mandisa. And he's just like, nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. That's a pretty decent one. Hey, we got a bunch of super chats, but before we do, just in case we're going to wrap all this up once again, you guys need to be pointed to Black Nonbelievers and everything that's going on there so that you can be supportive of one of the organizations that, as you heard from Michaela's talk and from Mandisa tonight, is doing good work and is needed. I remember when I first got started in the community and people were like, why aren't there more women involved? And I'm like, because guys are douchey dipshits that want to sit here and do pedantic stuff and pat themselves on the back to getting the right answer to the easiest fucking question in history, which is, do I have a good reason to believe this bullshit? And the answer is no. Woo, go team. Yay, atheism. If atheism provides you anything, it's a smug sense of superiority for, I don't need to sell that. But also the answer was also in part, we needed and continue to need women who are willing to put up with some bullshit so that when other women arrive, they're not the only ones. And we have to recognize that while we, in much the same way that Mandisa said an hour and a half ago, you and I might have similar experiences and be completely different on this, that's important to recognize. I mean, I remember when Tony Penn was telling me, hey, stop saying things like, I don't see color, because that's a lie. It denies the very differences between us. And the fact that Mandisa's life and Anthony Penn's life and my life have all been different. None of us, I got 20 buckets of privilege, but I'm also a marginalized minority in a couple of different categories. That's not the point. The point isn't to ascribe blame or praise or any of that. It's to figure out why we cannot or have not sufficiently organized based on this shared experience and interest and value. What's getting in the way of that? And if it turns out that there are problems with problems outside of the Black community that doesn't make the broader community welcoming. We got to figure that out. And if it turns out there's problems in the Black community that makes them not feel welcome at these other events, we got to figure that out too. But in the meantime, we need to create organizations that cater to the special needs and lived experiences of different people. And Black Nonbelievers does that as well or better than any other organization I've ever had the honor to work with or be roughly associated with. I don't do anything for Black Nonbelievers except have my friend on to talk. So
Yay. Well, you do a whole lot more than that, Matt. Don't sell yourself short there.
All right, so we got super chats. I'll go ahead and start. Can you see them up?
Yes.
Cool. I'm going to get my list up, but I'm going to start with this one. 12 pounds from BW Rem Joe. I love how the host decided my username is pronounced BW Ram Joe, like I'm running some kind of discount superstore for random access memory. Greetings from Europe. We'll have to catch up tomorrow. Yeah, my apologies. Genuinely, I have no other way. I don't know what to do with it. It's letters that are unfamiliar to me that I'm trying to figure out. If you want to post a comment in chat to tell me what it should be, you can do that. Whoops.
All right.
I don't.
So
I'm trying to
for
get
the
my.
next one.
Yeah, it's my fault. I slept on the queue.
All right. So it's $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Empathy should never be seen as a weakness. 100%. And should, yes, you are absolutely right about that. Thank you, the Atheist Mechanic.
Yeah, that's I think if we've done any disservice, well, there's a lot there, but the sort of sexist machismo, homophobia, where we convince boys that in order to be a man, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this and you don't cry and you don't show weakness and don't show, yeah. If somebody's telling you not to show weakness, that's them showing weakness. That's them showing that they are afraid to have integrity, that they are afraid to show empathy. They are afraid to be compassionate. They are afraid of what other people will think. And standing up for them doesn't mean you have to get back up in their face and play their game. You can just be like, yeah, you do you. I'm genuinely going to go help people. And if you think it makes me weaker, cool. I didn't ask you in the first fucking place.
Mm-hmm.
$10 from Kelly King, Detroit Atheist Queen. Happy early birthday to a great boss and even better friend. Love you lots, Mandisa. Yay.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. Kelly was just at Dragon Con with us, and she has been an amazing affiliate leader for our Detroit group. And check is in the mail. No, I'm just kidding. Well, no. I wish I was actually a boss that paid. So yes, your support, y'all support for BN will really, really help. Again, send those super chats to the line, but also click on that donation link and support Black Nonbelievers. Shout out to Josephine Ogle, who did that earlier, if I may. So, but thank you very much, Kelly. Love you so much. And shout out to the BN family once again.
$10 from, wait, that was me who read that one. This one's you to read.
Oh, okay. Another one. $10 from the Atheist Mechanic again. George Carlin had a famous but about the differing religions wearing different hats and how they all fought with each other over what God says about wearing hats or not. They said he had a famous bit, I guess. That's what he meant to say. But yeah, I don't remember that one from Carlin, but maybe you do, Matt. But I can definitely see what he's saying there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Carl, it was a bit about how, they've got funny hats.
Yeah.
Or stupid hats, I think is what the phrase he actually said. But $10 from Poor Claire. This may sound stupid, but if belief isn't a choice, how can we say people are bad for having harmful, bigoted beliefs? I'm not sure if belief is a choice or not. Happy birthday, Mandisa. Claire, my car didn't choose to break down, but it's still broken and it's still worth fixing. It doesn't matter. To some extent, while you don't choose what you are convinced of, you can consciously influence what sort of evidence you are willing to accept and what sort of reasoning you are willing to fall for. Nobody's saying that this is just a choice. But if you are made aware that you have bigoted beliefs, what's the reply to that? Hey, sorry, I'm going to keep being a bigot, but I didn't choose it. Okay, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, this gets down to whether or not anybody has free will at all. Whether or not you have free will, you are still the identifiable agent that took that action or made that decision. And so you're what we have to hold accountable, whether you had any say in it in a magical sense or free will sense or not. So when I say belief isn't a choice, I mean, people don't just go, today I'm going to believe that I can fly. Beliefs are something you became convinced of, and you can become convinced for good reasons or bad reasons. And so if we teach people how to identify the bad reasons, we are helping them be less wrong, even if they don't have any choice in it ultimately. And so also, if all of that's correct, I also didn't have a choice in saying that their beliefs were unfounded.
Right. It's as we say, when you know better, you do better. And we should be doing better once we find out that things are, when you find that what you are holding on to is harmful. And thank you for the birthday wish. So 20 Canadian dollars from the Untitled Final V2 this version. Hi, Matt. I took your advice and have been holding my tongue for the past 2 days and will continue to hold my tongue until well after my grandma had been buried. I'm guessing this is an internal reference or insider.
I'm not completely sure, but I think there was a recent one about, I don't know. In any case, they followed that up with another one. They paid 10 more alleged dollars from Canada to correct a typo. And then they added another $10 in alleged money just to say, hi, Mandisa, hope you're well. Oh. I can appreciate, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I don't remember if Untitled V2, this version, and I had this conversation in a call or not, or if they're just talking about my advice in general. But yeah, I said something not too long ago and probably many times in the past that a funeral is probably not the place to start going after your family's religion, because no matter what that person did or what that person believed, their funerals are there for people to remember, and they're for the living. And I don't know that walking into a funeral, walking into a family Christmas celebration, and dialing it up to 11 about how God claims are bullshit, it almost doesn't matter if you're right.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna remember anything other than, wow, really? Yeah. It's kind of a read the room thing. So
gotcha.
There we go.
Okay, so $10 from Dante Verona. Hey, Dante. He asks, hey, Matt, do you have a PayPal account? I've been clicking all over your YouTube channel, but I'm just not seeing it. Hey, Mandisa, always like hearing what you have to say. I guess you can answer that question, Matt, but thank you for the super chat, Dante, and thank you for your support for being in the past. I'd love to see it again. Thank you. And thank you to Alex for your donation. Sorry. But go ahead, Dante. Go ahead, Matt.
I don't tend to advertise it, but yes, I have a PayPal. It's just my Gmail address. It's just sans.deity@gmail.com. I'm not good about advertising my Patreon. I know it irritates, me, and Arden and other people. They're like, hey, why don't you do a better job of, I'm just not good at asking for money for me, which is turned out to be a problem. I didn't even monetize my YouTube channel till December, like 8-9 months ago. So there's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars that Google just took that should have been mine, but I had an ethical dilemma. I'm over it now. Give me some fucking money. sansdeity@gmail.com. You can do it via PayPal.
Matt,
you can do it.
Yes. Give Matt money for my birthday. And give BN money for my birthday, and give the line money for my birthday. Support all of the things and all of the people. So yes.
Do it all. Well, thanks so much, Dante. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, Shauna Silverbow sends in $10. When I believed in a God, I had no evidence and knew I had no evidence. When I found evidence, or at least finally accept evidence against my God belief, I stopped believing in a God. There's some subtle takes on evidence that I would love to get into sometime, but Aliashano continues. I did not become an atheist for the community. In fact, I missed the community I had when I was a Christian. I'm not going to become a Christian again just for the community, though. That's the thing I desperately wanted to get to. That is,
yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We are missing community, and it's not up to atheism. There's nothing about atheism to really build a community on, other than, hey, we don't share this belief. We are ostracized from this. We can commiserate on how we're the ones that are left out of X, Y, and Z because we're different. However, humanism and skepticism do make positive claims and have identifiable benefits that I think it's a little better or a little easier to build a community around. People will call in and say, why do you spend so much time talking about something that you don't believe? Oh, I don't actually spend that much time talking about what I don't believe. I spend time responding to people making claims that I don't accept, and I spend time talking about the nature of the world with regard to skepticism and humanism, because the people who believe something without good reasons vote. They act in accordance with their beliefs, and their actions have consequences for all of us, and that's what deserves to be addressed. If people could genuinely believe in the tooth fairy and God and never have that impact anything for the rest of us, I would not give the half of a fuck. But we don't live in that world. We live in the world where Christian nationalists, fascists are taking over, where they are denying individual rights, where they are throwing out due process, where they are fucking traitors to the Constitution. Yes, Cankles, McBonesters, Taco Tits, McHoulihan, whatever. You are an enemy of the Constitution, domestic. That's worth talking about. Religion just ends up being the window dressing that people use to justify. They're terrified of the world. They're terrified of things that are different. They're terrified of acknowledging, ooh, maybe there's not some top guided purpose. Maybe there's not some absolute objective moral imperative handed down from on high. Maybe we're going to have to pick up our tools and get to work at figuring out the universe. I'd rather not do that. I'll just say trans bad, Trump good, God good, atheist bad. Are you going to do the white good, black bad? Are you going to do that, or are you just going to keep that one fucking hidden? This is the thing that we end up addressing. And so I don't know whether or not there's a God. I don't have any good reason to think there is. I don't have any reason to think there's a possible. I don't think it's possible. I don't have any reason to think it is possible that there is a God. So I'm going to ask people to do it. And I'm with Alishana. And that is, I'd rather build a whole new community than go back to the community that I miss. I'd also rather build an entirely new family than go back to the relatives that I have issues with. I'd much prefer my chosen family. I'd rather society didn't. My parents shouldn't be able to pick my partner. They shouldn't be able to pick my major. The government shouldn't be able to tell me what my job is. Nobody should be able to guide my life to me, except to the extent where our lives interact. And then I'll listen to Mandisa.
No, I absolutely agree. I do think, though, that there is value in doing things as atheists, because there are many, many atheists that are very, very good people. And if they find comfort and solace in that identity, because it is still stigmatized, very much so. It may result in some hard and uncomfortable conversations, but the more practice makes perfection, even if it's not perfect. But practice makes you better at it. And I think that there is value in, in invoking your humanism and skepticism, and also saying that, you're doing good things because you're an atheist. I mean, or if people ask, then the comfort in expressing that is very, very important. But I absolutely agree. I don't like when people say they stick around, in their churches because of the community, because you can find community in some of everywhere. Like when you were saying earlier about what do you replace religion with?
Right.
And it's like, replace it with your life. Why are you even replacing it? You can add something better to it. How about you can do all the things that you may not have been able to do in your religious communities, and do them with other like-minded people. It's very much about unlearning what it means to have a community, and to go back to, like you said, a place that's insular, that that's very cliquish, which a lot of churches are, and they also promote some very, very harmful practices. Yeah, no, just going back to church for that, I don't recommend at all.
Also, I mean, I'm going to get on to the other super chat in a minute. This just popped in my head. I get that things have relaxed now. That you're going to go to one of these churches and there's going to be some youth pastor or main pastor up on the stage in kind of a black t-shirt with a cross on it and jeans and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't need to dress up in our Sunday best. We're here to celebrate God. We don't need all that window dressing. But you know what? That's a fucking lie, because that is just as performative as putting on your special Easter dress and your special Easter hat. It reminds me, there was an atheist who despised Christmas. Unfortunately, he's deceased. We were going to have a debate about it, but
I know who you're
we
talking
agreed
about.
on all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we agreed on all kinds of stuff. We didn't agree on the Christmas thing. But he said every Christmas he would go into the office and he would post on the internet pictures of him in a Grinch hat and say, "Here I am working on Christmas, just like it's because it's just a normal day, just like every other." And I pointed out that's a lie, because you don't post this every other day. You are doing this as a performance, and you celebrate Christmas more than a lot of atheists I know, because you've now turned it into your opportunity to grandstand about how much you don't celebrate Christmas.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
So don't think that just because you're going to one of those churches where you can show up in jeans because God loves everybody, that it's not still fucking performative. You're going to go there and you're going to stand when everybody stands, and you're going to raise your hands and sway, and you're either going to feel it or pretend like you feel it right along with everybody else there. You guys are showing off for each other to show we are not like the people who didn't bother to come to church today. We are not like the people who stayed home and slept in. We are not like the ones who waited because there's a football game. We're here. We're not like the ones that only show up on Easter and Sunday. We are here. Praise Jesus. Praise his holy name. It is all performance. And anybody who says otherwise is probably the performer who's trying to make a buck off of it.
Indeed.
$10 from David L. Super chat from Matt, unrelated to anything. Any tips for finding or catching a young 12-month corn snake that escaped her enclosure several days ago? At this point, love all you do. This is tough, because 12-month-old corn snakes are pretty small, and they can get out of enclosures and they can get almost anywhere. They're going to head for secure areas, corners, underneath stuff. Make sure that you don't have any sticky traps or anything like that they can get into. And I would take make a clamshell hide box out of a food dish and maybe cut a hole in it. Get some maybe light sphagnum moss, put a little bit of water in there. Give them what would be like a hide in an enclosure outside of the enclosure. Put a couple of those out in corners and check them. You may find that it gravitates toward that. I only had one snake kind of two actually that were that small get out. One of them was a baby king snake. I had sliding glass doors on that enclosure, and it was still small enough that it fit between them, and the cat killed it. But we've also had bigger snakes, like not big snakes, but like here's a baby ball python that's bigger than a corn snake. And house snakes. We had a house snake get out that's about the same size as a corn snake. We didn't find it. How long did it take Arden before? Was it gone for weeks? She's probably on the phone. There was one that was missing. We thought it was gone for a week or two, and we found it. Keep your eyes peeled. If you have a cat, watch for what the cat's playing with, because that's how we found one of them. The cat was basically, watching for it. Corn snakes probably aren't going to try to get high. They're going to get somewhere that's secure, and maybe outside. But once they're outside, you're done. So I'm sorry that you are currently missing a pet. I would also start Googling, because people who are more familiar with corn snakes, I have a dozen of them probably, but I haven't had to deal with this situation with corn snakes ever. There may be some sites out there that do. So.
All right, $20 from Melissa R. Happy birthday, Mandisa. Mississippi really needs a chapter. I appreciate all you do. Thank you. I agree. One of the things that we are working on with our new board, some of our new board members, shout out to Chris Cameron and also Derek Colanduno, who is the Skeptalk director, who is on our board now, and Deanna Williams. You know Derek, Matt. Yeah. So what we really want to do, and where your donations and support comes in, by the way, you can become an official member of Black Nonbelievers. You can go to our website, and I think it's also in the chat. Thank you for that, Arden. What we really want to do is really ramp up and solidify how we can encourage and support volunteers on the ground in leading affiliate groups in various cities. It's always a challenge when it comes to any group to retain, like volunteers and people who are willing to step up, because it's easier said than done, and the main thing is the consistency. But yes, I agree that Mississippi could do with, an affiliate of Black Nonbelievers. I also want to shout out Lorenzo Neal, who is actually a pastor. He's an AME pastor. He's in Shreveport now, but he was in Jackson, Mississippi when he interviewed me for his show. We became friends. So there are a growing number of people who are questioning and leaving religion, and that includes in Black communities and in states like Mississippi. So I would absolutely love, and as y'all know, I am not afraid to go into the lion's den, so to speak. I went down there to Alabama to debate Kent Hovind. And so that's just one thing. So I'm definitely I would love to get that started at some point. So yes, please support BN so that we can have an affiliate group in every state and in every major city.
Sweet. $10 from Hannah Hodgins. Hi, Matt and Mandisa. Much love to y'all on the line. Humanism rules, free Palestine, keep up the awesome work. Thank you, Hannah. Doom, doom, doom.
All right, $10 from Joshua Everett. Now I'm upset that I don't have ghosts to help with chores. Probably just as well. I mean, what would I even pay them with? Hey, yeah. If it were that simple, my house would be absolutely spick and span. Like, seriously. If it was that, if it was that simple that we could get, I'm like, if they're going to be ghosts, right? can they be useful and help us with things that we really need, like with help around the house and cooking
Probably
and stuff
turn
like
out
that.
to be just nothing but poltergeists like cats, where they just knock shit off the table all the time and just make it messier.
Mm-hmm.
$20 from Mr. Boricua 10. Howdy, Mandisa. Great to see you. The reality of MTG and myself agreeing is bloody freaky. It's happened twice for me. And I'm very afraid to find out if it's good or bad. Sura, you're not alone. Much love. Michaela, best of luck. Ray, the frick? Well, I already beat up on Ray enough.
$10 from Green Man Dave. I don't always send unsolicited censored pics, but when I do, I send the very worst. Nixon, Cheney, Van Patten, peace sign,
Nice.
and a wink.
I promise I'm not. This is a bit of fun. I don't care, but that's not how you spell censor.
Yeah.
$10. Well, it's how you spelled censor. And so cool. You might have been talking about pictures of like sensors, like my glucose meter sensor, but $10 from me, Shannon. Really hope to join the Black Nonbelievers. You're doing necessary work, Mandisa. What's stopping you, me, Shannon? What's stopping you?
He said
Just
really
going
happy.
right now.
Yeah, he said really happy to join the Black Nonbelievers.
Really happy to join. I for some reason I took that as I would be really happy to do that, not I'm happy that I have done it. So
yeah.
There you go. New member.
Yes.
Schooling
and
me on getting stuff right.
Yeah. And we are working on, we are working on like our membership process. We have a card design that we're still working on actually getting out, like membership cards too. It's 15 years overdue, but it's still a work in progress. But we really do appreciate everyone who has become an official member, who supports regularly. It is very, very much appreciated because it is needed. Thank you.
It's also not lost on me that immediately after I pedantically correct somebody's spelling on a word that doesn't fucking matter, I completely misread the very next tweet. I'm just as fallible as everybody else. And this is why people buy into the notion of karma. I don't think the universe did that on purpose, but it sure is fun that it happened.
Right. It's like a bloop. There you Okay, thank you from another $10 Canadian $10. Thank you. Happy birthday, Mandisa. Thank you.
$10 from Green Man Dave. Oops, almost forgot. Happy birthday, Mandisa. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, $10. Another $10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Much love to everyone at the line. 2 wholesome hosts on this great show. Have a great night. Also, apologies for the typos. I don't even remember seeing any typos now, but okay.
It's all right. They might be preventive, because here's another one from the Atheist Mechanic. I always thank you, Matt, for introducing me to ideas that made me challenge the beliefs I held. You, sir, are always awesome. Well, no, that's not true, but thanks. You are awesome as well, Mandisa. That's true. Much love, y'all.
Aww.
And we appreciate it.
Oops. I missed a super chat. I'm sorry. It was a 99-cent one, so it was missing my there you go.
999 from Outwitted by Fish. I'd like to be a nonconformist, but I'm afraid of what people might think. Oh, that's so good. Yes, we're all individuals. Quickly, I'm going to go through a couple of quick announcements right here, and that is, here's the schedule for what's upcoming on the line. Tonight, it was me and Mandisa. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central, Arden, Hart, and Luxander will be doing the Transatlantic Call-In Show. That's your opportunity to talk to real live trans people about why you're transphobic or why you're not, or how you can avoid being it, or what's the dealio, and why is this fair, and why do people care, and are trans people claiming to be cis, and are they claiming they're when they say what their pronouns are they telling me what their genome is, and oh my gosh, whatever will I do? I need to ring. Just take a breath. It's real people who would largely just appreciate kind of being respected and left alone, but they're willing to answer your questions. Anything you're confused about, language, whatever, give them a call. On Friday, there's a special Cus I Wanna at 6:00 with John Gleason and Unquestionable Calvin. On Sunday, the Sunday show at 2 p.m. is going to be John Gleason and Austin Archer. Arden and I were supposed to be going to the North American Reptile Breeder Convention in Dallas this weekend. We are not actually going to be going. I only mentioned that just in case somebody was heading out to see us there. We are going to be doing reptile work and other stuff this weekend that keeps us away from the line stuff. Plus, I think it's great to have a Sunday or 12 that don't have me on it. Don't get me wrong. I would do some version of the Sunday show 7 days a week, 365 days a year, if in fact y'all would put up with it and we could get callers. But Sunday show at 2 o'clock is going to be John and Austin. The Sunday show after dark is going to be Forrest and Jovan. Is that Jovan's first Sunday show?
Yep.
Awesome. Monday, Skeptalk is Arn Ra and Justin from Deconstruction Zone. Tuesdays, Chewed Gum is Alyssa and Taylor. And next Wednesday's Hang Up, I don't have a guest yet, but there's stuff in the works. That's all I can say. Thanks, everybody, a ton for all of your super chats. Huge thank you to Mandisa for postponing when we couldn't do this the last time, coming back to have an early birthday with us. Happy, amazing birthday, my awesome friend. And best of luck to you and Nonbelievers. Go donate, go support. Just build communities. Be a neighbor. Be a pal. Be a mensch. I'm not a Zionist mensch. Patreon.